Hakadosh. Good afternoon. Masechet Kiddushin Daf Memvav Amud Aleph 46a1. We are on the two dots, which is the third line, where the Gemara says Itmar. It was stated. Okay? Ketana shenitkacha shelo ledat avia. When you have a little girl that she was married off without the father knowing about it, meaning a man came and he told her, "You're married to me with this, whatever it is." Now the father didn't know anything about it. So says the Gemara, yeah, he says, Amar Rav says, Ben hu ben avia yecholin lakev. Whether it's her or her father, they could annul the entire kiddushin. Why? Because since the father still didn't want it, even she could retract on it. Okay, and that's what he's saying over here. And therefore, even now, if she does rebuke and say, "I don't want it," so even if afterwards the father says yes, it doesn't help. Rabbi says no. Avia, only the father could destroy the kiddushin, velohi, and not her. So 8 be Ravuna, Ravasi, Ravuna comes and he asks Ravasi, ve'amri l'rechia barav l'Ravasi, some people say l'rechia barav to Ravasi, ima ma'en yima'en aviha letitalo. If the father will come and rebuke and basically not want to give it to her, en li ela aviha, that's only the father. How do you know that a girl could come and say, "I don't want in the marriage"? How did you ever see such a thing? When it says a double language of ma'en means in any circumstances. So Rav, so the Rav says, Lo tizlu b'taribcha, don't go, don't ask a question in something that doesn't have mamashut. I can answer you, you could go shapita shelo l'shenishut. Maybe he only seduced her to have relations with her for znut, not for kiddushin. But if it was be'emet for kiddushin, it could be that the din is like Ravasi, that only the father could do it. Meaning, in this case, maybe we're talking about over here mefateh. So mefateh is seducing. So seducing, maybe he was just he wanted to have relations with her. Not that he wanted to be married to her. So it's not the same case. So says the Gemara, Pita shelo l'shum yishut kra bai. He says, do you need a pasuk to teach you the concept of lo l'shem yishut? You need a pasuk for that? That what? That it's either the father or the daughter that could go against it. Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak, says Rav Nachman Yitzchak, Lomar, to tell you, Meshalem knas kimfuta. Right? That this mefateh has to pay to the father a knas, just like a regular mefateh. Because at the end of the day, if he did seduce her, not for l'shem yishut, the father could come and say, "I don't want it." Right? But it's teaching us that if he did it l'shem znut, and there's no kiddushin at all, right? Not only that the father stops it, but rather, right, he's also obligated to pay a knas. He has to pay a penalty. Why? Because look what he's doing. So he has to pay a penalty. So Elmaleh Rav Yosef says of Yosef, Ya ihach yivso, hainu de tanina. That's what we learn. Mahori manena la'isha. What does that mean? You have to give her like mohar to the woman. Shehit tzricha imenu kiddushin, that needs kiddushin. What does that mean? Now, if you're going to tell me it was done for Shem Shut, what do you mean now that you have to do a new kiddushin? Abaya comes and he says, "Tzricha kiddushin ledat avia." You need kiddushin for the father. That's what it means. You need kiddushin. You need kiddushin for the dat of the father. Mishnah Memvav Amud Aleph 46a, the Mishnah. Haomeli Yishav, a person comes and he tells a woman, "Kachil li b'tmarazo." He's very romantic. He gives her a date, right? Not that he goes on a date. He gives her a date. Yeah, he gives her a date, and he tells her, "Get married to me with this date." Oy kachili vizo, with this, right? With another one. If one of them is worth a shaveh pruta, she's married. And if not, she's not married.
We're still at 145th already.
Yeah, no, but basically what we're trying to say is that we're not going to be mitzaref all of them to a shaveh pruta, but in one of them in itself, it has to be shaveh pruta. Meaning, even though I'm going to give you one
needs to be,
but one needs to be shaveh pruta. I don't say, listen, by the time everything came out, I give you 20. No. One in itself already has to be shaveh pruta. Bezu, vazu. But if he said, "Get married to me with this one and this one and this one," then they combine everything together. And if not, then mekudeshet. If she's eating one by one, but what happens if he gives it to her and she right away eats it? He gives her another one, meaning that so it's already gone. So for there, I do not combine them. One of them has to be a shaveh pruta again.
maybe he shouldn't want to marry her if you.
Yeah, okay. Haita. אוכלת ראשון, okay, fine. אין מקודשת שהיא שווה פרוטה. Fine. It says the Gemara. Man Tana Ikachi. Who's the Tana that says that Dafka, if she says Ikachi on every single one individually, right, that it's going to be considered a Masechet Kiddushin separately. But if she says Kiddushin bezu bezu bezu, it's one. Who's the Tana that says that? Amar Rabba says Rabbi Shimon here. It's Rabbi Shimon. The Amar that he says Ad Shiomar Shivua lechol echad v'echad. Do you remember that we said that what happens if a person says Shivua, I didn't take a pikadon from you, and a pikadon from you, and a pikadon from you. So he said you're going to be chayav on each one. But according to Shitat Rabbi Shimon, he said no. You have to say Shivua. I didn't take Shivua. I didn't take a pikadon. You know pikadon is collateral that I don't have a guarantee from you. And Shivua, meaning that according to him, you have to use the language of Shivua by every single one. So therefore, this Shita obviously is going according to Rabbi Shimon. Next, we said in the Mishnah, Bezu vazu vazu, meaning he comes and he gives her all the dates and he says, you're going to get married to me with this one, this one, this one, that. We said if all of them together have the Shevet Pruta, she's going to be married. So, hi, on which one are we referring to? Ilema Reisha, if you're going to tell me that we're going on the first case, which was Hitkachili b'tzumarazu, Hitkachili bezu. So, what does it mean that now she's eating it? Afilu menachat nami, even if it's going to be every single one in her hand, right? Still, you're going to say that if one of them is going to be Shevet Pruta, right, it's going to be okay, and they're not going to be mitzaref. Hitkachili bezu kamar, because he says, get married to me with this one. Bezu means with this. He didn't say bezu, 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 with this. One. So therefore, if none of them had a Shevet Pruta by itself, it's a klum. Why is it klum? Because you didn't do anything. You need one that has a Shevet Pruta. Ela seifa, but rather has to be going on the seifa. What does it mean on the seifa? Where it said that she was eating it. So even if it's going to be the first one was going to be eaten before the end of the Kiddushin, it's a milveh, which means it's like a loan, which means the fact that it was already eaten, it's considered like a loan in the hand of the woman. And somebody that's going to get married to a woman with a loan that she's obligated to him is not a marriage. Yeah, we learned this a long time ago. Yeah, so somebody that's going to get married with a milveh is a klum. It's nothing. So Amar Rabbi Yochanan says of Yochanan, Hare shulchan v'basar v'hare sakin, right? Ve'en lanu peh le'echol. He says, 1 second. We have the table in front of us. We have the meat. We have the knife. Yeah? This is in Bavel. Talking about knives. Yeah? En lanu peh le'echol. And he comes and he says, yeah, nobody kills with a knife. Yeah? You kill with a gun, not with a knife.
By the way,
yeah? He comes and he says, En lanu peh le'echol. We don't have what does that mean? We have a Mishnah. We have a Mishnah, right? Well, you don't know how to explain it. You don't know what's going on. So Rav Shmuel Amri Tavayu, Rav Shmuel both say, Leolam Reisha. Says really be'emet, the last part where it's saying that she was eating it was going back on the Reisha, which means that he went and he said, Kachili bezo. And then, with each one individually. The lomi by a kamar. So there's no chidush. What does it mean, no chidush? Lomi by a manachat. We don't have to mention a case where a woman is going to come and she's going to leave it in her hand. Diika Shevet Pruta, that if it's going to have a Shevet Pruta in, yes, and if not, no. Aval ochele, but if she's already eating it, hoil mikarva nayata, since the hana'a is so close to her, because she's in the middle of eating it, meaning that she's benefiting from it. So I would say that maybe she's going to be maknei nafsha on even less than a Shevet Pruta. Meaning like this. You come to a woman and say, Area mekudesh li bezo. So, is this Shevet Pruta, yes or no? So you're going to say, okay, Shevet Pruta, yes or no. But if you give it to her and she's already using it, I would have thought to say that even if it's not Shevet Pruta, she's benefiting from it. She's enjoying herself. No. Right? So since we're talking about that she's enjoying herself, so that's it. So maybe she's maknei nafsha.
Even on that time to say it.
What?
Maybe she wouldn't have used it. She wouldn't have enjoyed it.
He tells it to her beforehand.
I thought
No. She's eating it while he keeps on going. Mm-hmm. Meaning, he says, Kachili bezo, he gives it to her, immediately she starts eating it. He takes another one, Kachili bezo, and she continues going. So he said, one of them has to have a Shevet Pruta. And we don't combine. So says the Gemara, but 1 second, why? I would have thought to say that since she's eating it, she's benefiting it, which means that she's agreeing to it. Which means even if it's not going to be a Shevet Pruta, she doesn't care. If you come and you give a half a penny to a woman, and you say you're going to get married to me with this, and you give it to her, right? So I would have thought to say, listen, if she's already enjoying it and she's going to use it for something, so even though it's not even a Shaveh Pruta, but listen, she's enjoying it. Maybe she's Makneh Rasha. The Gemara says no. Kamashmalan, obviously not, but I'm just saying that's Sahavami. Ravami Amar, Ravami comes and he says, no, Lama Seifa. Really, by man, we're going on the Seifa. Remember that the Seifa was, Hikachili bezo, bezo, bezo. Yeah, he said it all in one shot. So he says, so what does it mean now that one of them has to have a Shaveh Pruta? You need the last one to have a Shaveh Pruta. Right? Why? Because the last one is the only one which is not going to be a milveh. If you remember, what happened was we said that when you're going to eat it, so it's going to be considered a milveh. And we said, if it's a milveh, it doesn't help. He says, no. The last one, that's the one which is the most important one. And since that's the most important one, that one is the one specifically that it has to have a Shaveh Pruta. Means even in the middle, if it did have it, it doesn't matter because it was already a milveh in the middle, right? But the last one was not. So that's the summary that you have in the footnote, by the way, where the Gemara says is bringing two different pshatim, whether it's according to Rav and Shmuel, that we're talking about this going on the end of the Mishnah, L'tchilata, that it's teaching us the first deen that when a person gives a tmara and it's going to be a separate kiddushin, it's not going to be chal unless it's going to be Shaveh Pruta, each one on its own, or one of them at least on its own. And then the Mishnah says that even if what's it called, if she ate it, it doesn't help. He says, then if not one of them is going to be. And according to Rav Ami, he says the deal is going back on the end of the Mishnah that we're talking about, right? That we said that the Mishnah is teaching us the second case, that when a person comes and he gives a whole bunch of them to her, right, in the Masechet Kiddushin, all of them are mitztarfot l'shaveh pruta. However, though, at the end, though, right, the Mishnah is saying that if she was eating it, immediately once she was getting it, the Kiddushin is not going to be chal unless the last one is getting it. And the reason why is because the first ones that she's eating before the finishing of the Kiddushin is all considered a milveh. Okay? Fine. Next. Amar Rava. Rava says. Says Rava, Shemamina midrabiyami, we learn from Rabbi three different things. Shemamina, we learn him Kadesh b'mimim gudashet. If somebody's going to get married with a milveh, it's not going to be considered marriage. Shemamina, we learn him Kadesh b'milveh pruta, data pruta. If a person is going to give a milveh and a shaveh pruta, the dat is going to be on the shaveh pruta, right? Not on the milveh, but rather on the shaveh pruta. Okay, why? Because since you're doing it on a loan and also the pruta, the main thing is on the loan. Shemamina, we learn number 3. Right? 46b. Shema'ot be'alma chozrim. Money, which is given the Shem Kiddushin, and at the end the Kiddushin was not chal, so the woman has to give it back. So it's not considered a matana, it's not considered a present. Which means that if a man comes and he gives a woman, right, let's say a ring, and at the end, right, it wasn't, how do you call this? It wasn't
we have one
real.
on the island, she doesn't want to give it back.
Real. Right? No, meaning that the Kiddushin was not a good Kiddushin. No, you might be talking about something different. You're talking about that after divorce. I'm not talking about after divorce.
No. Kiddushin?
And the Kiddushin was not good.
They're not going to get married and she doesn't want to give it back.
Okay, so that's a big problem. Here it's saying, Ma'ot be'alma chuzrim. Right? Money goes back. Fine. So says the Gemara, also the ring. Says the Gemara, Itma, it was stated. Yeah? Hamkadesh, yeah, 46. Hamkadesh, 46b. Hamkadesh achoto. A person that comes and he gets married to his sister with money. Rav Amar Rav says, Ma'ot chuzrim, they go back. And Shmuel says, Ma'ot matana, the money is a present. Rav Amar Ma'ot chuzrim, Rav says that the money goes back, because everyone knows that a person cannot go and get married to their sister. And therefore, when he gave it to her, Gamar natan l'shim pikadon. He gave it to her as a pikadon. Right? Now, if you're going to say, fine, so why doesn't you just say l'shum pikadon? So he says, Savar lo mekabla. He thought that she wouldn't maskim to take it. So therefore, he's like covering it and he's saying, no, you're married to me, kid. Shmuel Savar, Shmuel holds, Ma'ot matana, the money is a present. Because the person knows that he can't get married to his sister. The Gamar v'natan, so he gave it to her as a present. So why doesn't he give it to her as a present? Savar ksifa laminta. She thinks it's an embarrassment, right? And therefore, since it's going to be an embarrassment, she doesn't want to receive a present. So therefore, what happens is he gives it to her 100% as a matana. What? We're talking about a sister. I don't remember. Yeah. Mativ Ravina comes and he asks the following question. Hamafrish chalato kemach. If a person is going to come and he's going to do a frashat chala when it's from the kemach, not from the isa. We always make it from the dough. What happens if you separate it from the flour? Well, that's what the Gemara is saying. Hamafrish chalato mi kemach ena chala. It's not chala. Right? Why? Because since it says reshit arisotechem, it's mashma that the chiyuv only comes when it becomes an isa, a dough. You have to mix it together. The gezel, right, biyad the kohen, and therefore the kemach is going to be considered gezel in the hand of the kohen. So says the Gemara, now why? V'amai, why exactly? He says, legezel biyad the kohen. Why is it going to be gezel biyad the kohen? Neymar, why don't we just say, right, Adam yodea shem mafrishim chala mi kemach, and Natan l'shem matana. Everyone knows that you can't take it off from the. So therefore, obviously, he's giving it to us as a present. So answers the Gemara, Shani Hatam, it's different. There's going to be something bad that's going to come out of it. What does it mean? If you're going to come and you're going to tell him that he's obligated to give it back, it could be that sometimes he's going to have less than 5, right? Less than the 5 the quarters of the kemach, right? That's what he says here. Of kemach, which that's a shiur of a frashat chala. And now he's going to put all of them together. And now what's going to happen is, so he just thought that he fixed his isa. He fixed his dough. And now he's going to eat it without taking away the chala. And he's going to eat tevel. There was no kemach, there was nothing there. Right? So therefore, what's going on there? So because of that, that's what we just said, because of this chashash, Chachamim say, no. Right? Is that the Kohen that's going to be mekabel with Turat Chala is obligated to give it back, even though it could be that it was a matana. Meaning the guy came and he wanted to give him a present because he knows that he can't take off hafrashat chala from flour. You need the dough. But he gave it to him. So it was a matana. If it's a matana, you should keep it. He says, no. Maybe the Kohen will come, join everything together, and then he says, okay, perfect. So now what happened is he's going to come and he's going to not the Kohen, sorry. The guy is going to come, right? And he's going to start doing the tziruf of everything that he did. And then he's going to say, okay, fine, I'm putting everything together. And then he's going to come and he's going to start eating tevel. So because of the eating of the tevel, we didn't want, right? We didn't want that there should be a churba coming out from it, something bad coming out from it. Okay? Fine. Ask the Gemara, I thought you told me that Adam Yodea Shem Frishim Chala. I thought you said that everyone knows that you can't take off Frashat Chala from Kemach. So answers the Gemara, the Kohen Yodea Ve'en Yodea. What does that mean? Sometimes the Kohen knows the Etzem Adin, but he doesn't know everything 100%. What does that mean? He says, Yodea Shem Mafrish Chala Mi Kemach. He knows that you cannot be Mafrish Chala from Kemach. Ve'eno Yodea de Savar Ta'amai Umai, but he doesn't know the reason. Mishum Tircha de Kohen. Because of the Tircha of the Kohen. The tircha de Kohen achilteh. To do the tircha of the Kohen, he's going to be mochel, right? And he's going to be maskim to accept the kemach, which means that's why it could still be a mistake that even by the kemach it could be given as a chala, and the chashash that we mentioned before is still there. So because of that, Chachamim say, no, you have to give it back. He gave it to you as a present, give it back. We don't want problems, right? Arousing. Fine. So ask the Gemara, Petihavi truma. Says 1 second, why don't we just say that this kemach should be the Kohen's of Truma, which means that if right now the Kohen comes and he makes an Isa, he shouldn't eat it until he takes chala from another place. And therefore, she's not going to be nichshal with the tevel, because anyway he had to take off. So it's going to be like a Truma. He has to take it from another place, and therefore there's no problem still. So Mino Tran, did we learn in a Mishnah that if somebody is going to be mafrish truma from the nakuv, from something which is going to be an atzitz nakuv. Remember, atzitz nakuv means that you have it's like a piece of pottery, right? That basically that it has a hole in the bottom, and since it has a hole in the bottom and it's getting the nourishment from the ground, so it's going to be chayav trumot u'masrot midoraita. But now let's say you separated truma from there onto one which does not have a hole. So if it doesn't have a hole, its nourishment is not from the ground, and therefore it's only going to be the Rabbanan. So he comes and he says, sorry, it's not even going to be even the Rabbanan, not even the Rabbanan. So says the Gemara, so truma lo te'achel ad sheyotzi aleh truma right maaser mekom acher. So since midoraita, it's not going to be chal on the chelek which was already going to be separated for truma, because since it was separated on things which are not chayavim, so if it's tevel gamur still min Torah, and tevel is a sur even for a kohen, meaning a kohen does not have a heter to eat tevel. A kohen has a heter that he's allowed to eat his portions, right? So he can eat the truma gdola, he can eat the truma maaser, but he can't eat tevel. Tevel is also for a kohen. A kohen cannot eat untithed produce. So says the Gemara, bitre mane. We're talking about two different kelim. So therefore, right, Sa'id, right, the kohen will listen and say, right, that basically it's not going to be chal, and therefore he doesn't have to come and he doesn't have to fix it again. Bechad mana. But in the case of Avrashat Chalaf from the Kemach in itself, in order to exempt him, he says, Lutzai, the Kohen will not listen to you. The reason why is because since it's going to be in one utensil, so the Kohen will not listen to you in such a case. It just doesn't make sense. Okay, V'baytema, if you want, you can answer. Lo'olam Kohen meitzetzai. Really, the Kohen will listen to us. V'kasavar balabait nitkenas isato. But the Bala Kemach is going to think that his isa was actually fixed, because the Kohen is coming and having from the leftovers of the Kemach. The ati lemechal v'tivla, and then the balabait is going to eat it. B'yisur. So before we were talking about the Kohen eating a b'yisur, now we're talking about the balabait eating a b'yisur. So says Gemara, but why? I thought you said that everyone knows. If everyone knows that you cannot separate hafrashat chala from kemach from flour, so who's going to make a mistake then? So answers the Gemara, the balabait yodea ven yodea. Yodea shen mafushin chala mi kemach ven yodea tzaveh tamemai mishum ticha de kohen. Ticha de kohen kiblalei. He says, one second. He says there's a concept, right, which is going to be, right, which is actually going to be Yodea ven Yodea. What does it mean Yodea ven Yodea? Yodea, we know Shema Frishin Chala mi Kemach, that we don't separate Chala from Kemach. The Eno Yodea, but he doesn't know that he holds that the entire reason why is because of the Tircha of the Kohen. And the Tircha of the Kohen, he already accepted upon himself. Because since the Kohen accepted the Kemach, so it's mashma that he accepted it. So if he accepted it, that's why the Balabait will make a mistake. Meaning, the Balabait doesn't know the halachot properly. He knows that you can't do it from Kemach. But he gave it to the Kohen. Now, the Kohen accepted it. Now, he doesn't realize that if the Kohen accepted it, maybe it's already good, because it was because of the toil of the Kohen. But now he says, but the Balabait will make a mistake. So because the Balabait will come and make such a mistake, right, that's why we come and we say that the Yashi has to give it back. And therefore it's going to be a su because of Tevel. It says, Truma. Say it's again Truma. Right? Yachzor v'yitrom. You take off the Truma, that's it. And then if you take off the Truma, there's no problem. Milo Tran, didn't we learn in the Mishnah? Eno Nakuv. If you're going to separate Truma from a Etzit Sheno Nakuv on the Nakuv, it's Truma v'yachzor v'yitrom. And you're going to come and you're going to do the Truma again. So answers the Gemara, Okimna, bitre manetzai, bechaman. We already answered that. We said if it's going to be in two separate utensils, he'll listen to you. If it's in one utensil, he won't listen to you. Meaning like this, if it's going to be two separate utensils, by logic, you come and you say, this is one, and this is two, A and B. So I tell you, listen, it doesn't work. Okay, fine. You'll. But if it's all in the same utensil, you're gonna say it didn't work. Why didn't it work? It's in the same thing. Why doesn't it work? So you won't listen. So says the Gemara, you won't listen. Velot tzait. But we learned in the Mishnah, hatorem kishut v'nimtza mara. What happens if you came and you separated, let's say cucumbers, or this is more like kishuim, like cucumbers. Yeah. So he says, if you're going to come and separate cucumbers, then in samara, and then afterwards, whatever you separated was bitter, right? Avatiach, watermelon, and it was bad. You open up the watermelon, the entire thing was bad. Truma, right? He says, whatever you separated is a truma. But you have to do it again.
Right, even if it's bad.
Even if it's bad, you have to do it again. Yeah? So, from the fact that you're saying that you have to do it again, it's mashma that a Kohen does not have to be machzir mashakibel, but rather he has to do it again. So, for example, I come and I give you the cucumbers, and then the cucumbers were bad. You don't have to give it back to me. You keep them. But I have to separate again. But you keep it. You don't have to give it back to me. So now why? According to what we were just mentioning, you should give it back. And so the Gemara Shane Hatam is different over there. Midoraita, Truma Malya. Really, Midoraita was a good Truma. I didn't know they were bad. I gave you the cucumbers. At the end, they found to be bad, but I give you something good, right? That's what he says. Midoraita truma me'alyahi. Mediribilai. There's mina Torah. I separated. That's it. Chachamim come and they say that you have to do it again, and therefore you leave them in the hand of the Kohen, because technically speaking, right, it was a good truma. So that's why I have to leave it in your hands, right? I don't know what you're going to do with it. Maybe you could sell it as a third, like different grades of produce, and some people, the ones the poor people, must get the, the most of the whatever it is. Yeah. But he says, but kemach doesn't help like that. The Amar Bilai says Bilai, minay letorem minan ra'ah ala yafa. How do we know if you're going to be torem minan ra'ah ala yafa shetrumato truma? How do we know if you're going to be torem on something bad for something good? How do we know that it's still going to be good, a good truma? What does that mean? The mashmot of the pasuk is that if you're going to separate the chelek hatov shebo, yeah, en alav chet, there's no chet. V'ilu im mafrish min hagarua shebo, yesh alav chet. So im eno kadosh, if it's not going to be kadosh, nesiyut chet lama. If you didn't give the truma, so why is the nesiyut chet? Meaning, if you came and you give something good, there's no chet. If you gave something bad, it's a chet. Why is it a chet? If it's not considered truma, why is it a chet then? So obviously, it is considered a truma, and that's why it's a chet. So from here we learn it. The really be meant is going to be a good truma. The Amar Rava, and Rava says, Lo shanu ela d'amar that this entire Mishnah, right? Because again, we were talking about now, right? That we were just speaking about, but we just finished by talking about the entire concept that it's still going to be a good truma. Now Rabbi comes and he explains that at the end of the Mishnah, when we were talking about that she was eating one by one, so Rava comes and he says, Lo shanu, what are we dealing with? Ela d'amar that he said, Bazu, vazu, vazu. In all these three cases, right? He comes and he says, in all these three cases, aval bat, amarla, if he said, right, be'elu, right, with these ones, he didn't say with this one, and this one. He said with these ones. So if he comes and he says with these ones, aval amarla be'elu, afilu ochelet nami mekudeshet. Even if she's eating it, it's going to be mekudeshet. Ki ka'achla banu, when she's eating it, midenafsha ka'achla, she's eating it from herself. That means whatever she acquired her for her kiddushin, and therefore it's not considered a milveh. Because when he comes and he says with these, so for the entire thing is hers. Because now it's everything. So now she's going to be married. So when she's eating it, she's eating her own produce. And that's why it's going to be good. Okay, we continue with Hashem tomorrow.
So meaning